EFI University is hosting a new class called Essentials of Operating a Shop. If you're interested in learning how to run your shop more efficiently, this class is for you. The next course will be held in Orlando, Florida on April 16th. For more details, go to EFI101.com and look for the Essentials of Operating a Shop class. Be sure to use the coupon code DIFAL for $50 off.
This is Do It For a Living, your source for inside information on the future of automotive performance.
And every year we learn how to make it better and better. And it kind of goes back to sort of really at the core of what the event is, my mantra or the way that I look at it, and that is, this is a grassroots event. I want to know every single one of my sponsors on a first-name basis, and I want them to have my personal number. I want them to be able to call me, to talk to trust that I'm honest and going to do the right thing. And then I also want the drivers and the racers to have that same sort of experience.
What's holding you back from starting or growing your business into what it can be? Well, if you're listening to this, it's not a lack of information. What you're about to hear is all you need to get motivated and start making waves. Do It For a Living podcast details the journey of today's true players in their own words. Find out how they broke out so you can too. The time is now. The time is always now.
Welcome back, listeners. We've got a really cool interview today, which is going to lead us into next weekend for anybody, or actually this coming weekend, I should say, for anybody who is going to be in Houston. Texas 2K has been I guess you could call the Super Bowl of street racing, which is a pretty cool name for an event like this. Peter Blach is the guy who has put it all together. He is the founder and president of TX2k Enterprises, and he's our guest with us today. Peter, how are you doing today?
Doing great. Thanks for having me.
Cool. And so we've got a bunch of questions about you, your history of this event, and the business in general. Okay, so Peter, go ahead and tell us about yourself and Texas 2K. When did you get involved with cars, at a personal level? When did you get started, and then kind of lead us into how you created the event?
Sure. So I've just been a car guy ever since I was a little kid. My dad used to race rally cars in Europe, and so we always had some fashion of car motorsports or cars around us growing up, and so I think that's really where the passion for cars started was with my dad, and we moved here to the United States from Europe when I was 4 years old, here to Houston specifically, and Houston's got and always has had a very impressive street car scene, and so just kind of growing up here in town and liking cars as a hobby, going to the car show with my dad when I was younger, I've always just really enjoyed cars, and so when it came time to start driving, parents couldn't really afford anything too nice, so I started with a used Toyota MR2, and that sort of started my obsession with Japanese cars specifically, but kind of the sleek two-door, semi-fast, at least at the time, sports cars. And I went to high school here in Houston, and my parents kind of promised me if I did really well and nailed down a scholarship for college that they would consider getting me something a little bit nicer once I started college, which is really where the beginning of TX2k came in, because my favorite car at the time was a Toyota Supra. And so I told my parents, look, if I get a college scholarship, I want a Toyota Supra. And so I didn't get one the first year because they were too expensive. But the second year I was in college, my parents, mostly with their money and a little bit of the money that I had saved up, we went and bought a Toyota Supra.
What year was this?
That was back in 1996.
And so you got a 96. The 96 is the last year they made them, wasn't it?
No, 98 is the last year they made them. The first year they made them was 93. So I got a used 93 back in 1996, and that's where it really all began. There was no forums, no internet forums, no Facebook, no Instagram, no social media, nothing like that. Back then we had a email list called mkiv.com. MKIV signifies the fourth generation of the Toyota Supra, and so there was a email list. And so instead of going to the forums or going to social media to kind of see what's going on with cars, we would have emails, kind of like we have group text nowadays, going back and forth and all day to a group of probably 100 some car enthusiasts. That's how sort of the Toyota Supra and Supra obsession started. and that was back in 96, 97, 98. And it kind of evolved from there. There was a Supra event, Supra-only car event in Las Vegas called Supras Invade Vegas. And I was just a college kid. I didn't have the money to travel across the country to go to it in my own car, let alone to pay for a hotel or anything like that. So a guy that was from Houston that actually helped me with my Supra, his name was Bryce Dana. He and I, one year I rode as his passenger. We drove to Vegas. And after that, it was game over for me. I knew I wanted to do a Supra event here in Houston, and that's how TX2k was formed. There's nothing creative or crazy or sexy about the name TX2k. It was I'm in Texas. TX2k was the year 2000, and it just kind of went. So I called the first event we ever did in Houston TX2k.
And I originally a while back I remember it being called Super Nationals a lot. Isn't that is that a different one, or is that the same event? No,
that's the same exact event. So what happened was I did TX2k in the year 2000, and I did it. Actually, I had two sponsors at the time. One of them was MVP Motorsports, Dusty Womack, who was my very first sponsor. I think he donated a bunch of shirts and sent me a little bit of money to help me secure a dyno, and then Jeff Watson with what was at the time J. Marks Toyota here in Houston. They were my first two sponsors ever. We kind of got together, called as many Toyota Supra people as we knew, and I think that first year, and it was at Royal Purple Raceway, which is where we race now, but back then it was called Houston Raceway Park, HRP. That Friday, we went to their street night on Friday night, me and about 40 other Supras. And then that next Saturday we had a dyno day and like a group dinner that Saturday night. That's literally how simple TX2k was back in the year 2000.
So 40 people.
Yeah, well, 40 cars, so
okay.
Probably 80 or 90 people.
Okay.
Yeah. And then fast forward to the next year, I actually reached out to the guy, and I won't name him because it's moot at this point, but I reached out to the guy that did Supras Invade Vegas, and I said, hey, I want to really take my event to the next level. I want to create classes, drag race classes. I want to have a dyno day. Let's corroborate with one another to try to find some way to put our events together. And I basically got shut down. And so that really sparked the fire in me to grow this thing. And, a lot has happened in the last 16 years. But here we are now with 70 or so sponsors. Anywhere from 5,000 to 8,000 people come in through the gates. So long as it's sunny, of course, not raining.
Yeah.
And we do a pretty nice job with the event, and it's morphed into something completely different than it was originally.
So MVP has been with you the whole time, and they are still a sponsor.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep, Dusty's been on board and a sponsor of mine since the very, very beginning.
Awesome. So you have some people helping you out, not just yourself putting this all together. It's a pretty big team now, essentially, huh?
Well, we say that social media and the internet has changed the way the business exists and runs. Back in the day, it was me and a couple of sponsors, and every single penny I could save throughout the year, I would spend on TX2k. And so for 8 or so years, 9 years maybe even, I'd use my own personal money, and as the years went by, sponsors would pick up some of my personal financial burden to do the event. But it was just a hobby. It was just fun. And now with the way forums evolved in the early, mid, and late 2000s, and over the last couple of years, it's sort of been a social media game. And so as the event has evolved, as sort of the basis behind the event has evolved, it really went from being a Supra Nationals to kind of an all-around car event that still had a Supra focus, but allowed other car makes and models in, actually encouraged other car makes and models in, and the reason is I needed them to sustain the business. I could no longer keep floating the deficit of the entity or of the event. And in 2009, I bought a GTR. It was sort of the next great Japanese supercar, and the Supras at that point were extinct. They didn't make them for 11 years, and so I bought a GTR and really decided to continue to have a car make model focus. Moved it to the GTR, but still include all other car makes and models. And it's kind of funny. My wife jokes that sort of the focus of the event changes or morphs or moves with whatever kind of car I have in the garage. So, you know,
there's nothing wrong with that. It's your event, right?
Right. So that's kind of a little bit of the history and how it went from being a Super National to a GTR event and really an all-encompassing event.
Yeah, and I've been to the last couple, and it is really, I mean, you can't even tell it's just a GT, or, you know, focus on GTRs. It's just everything is there. Like, every single make and model you can possibly think of is there.
Yep, and we're proud of that. So,
do you think of yourself as an entrepreneur? Like, did you really set out to start a business, or is it just kind of evolved into being a business?
You know, the fun answer would be absolutely. I'm entrepreneurial, and man, I've had this vision from the very beginning. But the truth is, I started TX2k because it was a hobby, and because I enjoyed cars and racing and just the culture that went along with the event. And so, yeah, I think I'm entrepreneurial. I've had to become more entrepreneurial. I think the game and the business has gotten a lot dirtier with social media and with some of the things that competitors now do to try to steal your market share, steal your sponsors and your attendees and racers. And so I've had to really, really start running it more like a business, or just, you know, fold it and call it a day. And so obviously I've decided that the event is important enough and the legacy of the event is important enough to me for me to keep it going.
Okay, and since this is a one weekend a year event, I'm assuming you have a day job?
Yeah, yep, which has nothing to do with cars. My day job is in the healthcare field, and that's what I do day in and day out, and it's not cars. Unfortunately, I wish I could sustain a living doing just car stuff.
Okay, so why did you decide to keep taking all the risk of running this event and, you know, kind of doing it on your own dime, and then, you know, like, why did you decide to take the risk on it?
You know, like I said earlier, it's just because I really enjoyed it. It was something I look forward to every year. All my friends, family, everyone would look forward to the one time a year where we did TX2k, and it was the funnest car event that we would go to. And I started to get more and more sponsor support, and these sponsors started to turn into personal friends. And, you know, as I look at my list of 70 or 80 sponsors, there's probably 50 of them, or maybe 60 of them that are multi-year sponsors. They come back every single year, some of whom say, I can't make it this year, or I can't bring anything to market. I just want to support your event. And if I do show up, I just want to hang out and just see you and just kind of be there. So for me, that was really the motivation. It was something I enjoyed doing. But at some point in time, probably in 2010, 2011, it started to get so big that I had to start to get serious about, I really need to start running it like a business. There's others out there that want to put me out of business and steal my market share. And by the way, I have kids and a family and a wife and a real job. So if I'm going to spend all the time doing it, I need to make it worth my while.
Okay, good. So you're making money doing it, at least enough to make it worth doing.
Yeah. And you know, it's funny because it's really worth doing if it's sunny every day. It becomes a kick in the gut when it rains, and we've had rain the last couple of years.
Yeah.
So that's a tough pill to swallow financially, and oftentimes I leave years like that, you know, just saying at home to my wife, I'm not going to do it again. It's too much work for not really enough return. But just that fire just reignites about July, August, September when it comes time to start planning the next event. And I just do it again. I'm a glutton for punishment, I guess.
So, I mean, you've had pretty steady growth, I'm assuming, with the event, because, I mean, it's enormous now. You know, if you've gone from, 40 cars and 80 people to what it is now, I mean, it's worked out really well. So have you ever had a time when you doubted yourself and wondered if what if this doesn't work? Like, should I just stop now?
Well, the good news is that it, it's not a business that requires a huge amount of capital. It's not a business that requires a massive financial outlay. It's a business that requires some of that, paying track fees, insurance, printing shirts, trophies, kind of all the things that go with doing an event. But it only requires that if you're committed to doing the event. And the sponsors have sort of helped essentially cover my costs by supporting the event. And so from my perspective, the day I just really don't enjoy doing it, and I don't look forward to the event, and I don't wake up every morning of the event thinking, man, I really want to keep doing this, is the day I'll stop. But it hadn't happened yet.
Okay. Have you had a really bad experience with it? Like, I mean, obviously it was 2 years ago when like the drag strip was completely flooded and everybody's trailers were stuck, right? What's the worst experience you've had? Is that?
Well, that's up there. Last year where it rained on Saturday, the biggest day, that's painful. I don't want to get too specific, but I'll tell you, the business, like I mentioned earlier a couple of times, has gotten pretty cutthroat. So, I have competitors that try to call my venues to try to take them away and garner exclusivity for streetcar events. I've had competitors call timing equipment manufacturers to try to get them to get an exclusive on their timing equipment, so I can't buy it, and neither can anyone else. I've had competitors go behind my back and just do some things that would blow your mind, including inviting my sponsors when they're here for my event to dinners to try to sell their event and get them to sponsor their event. So that kind of stuff has been difficult, and probably up with the weather. Probably some of the more negative has led to some of the more negative experiences and thoughts and feelings for me personally.
Okay. And so tell us something that has you fired up. I mean, what's something that you got good going on that makes you happy?
Well, the event makes me happy, so let me not confuse any of the negativity. The event itself, I love doing the event. We recently, last year we moved to Royal Purple Raceway, started doing the roll race there as opposed to Texas World Speedway the year before. And the amount of distance, the amount of room, the logistics, and everything at Royal Purple Raceway really excites me because they have everything a large event venue should have, from distance to the ability to really prep that track so people hook, to safety, to stands, to vending, to food, to restrooms. Just that facility alone gets me excited. And this year, we actually, instead of having the small little timing display boards that other events have to display speeds, for the roll race, we actually spent the money and put into Royal Purple Raceway's timing system the ability for the speeds and the lane winners to show up on their large display boards at the head of the track and at the end of the track. So that's really exciting. I think we'll have cars going 200 plus miles an hour, and I think it'll be a better experience for the attendees because they'll actually be able to see which lane won and how fast each car went without having to strain their eyes to see a tiny little scoreboard.
Yeah, that's
exciting.
That always was really confusing, trying to figure out with the roll racing, especially who won or whatnot. So.
Yep. And we're also changing the way we do the starting this year, where we'll have a green pacing zone. And so people in the stands will be able to see when the light in front of the sort of the end of the green pacing zone, if that light turns green, then you know it's a fair race. If that light never turns green, the cars come back around and it wasn't a race. So I think that'll really help getting the message across to the spectators so that they know, okay, was that a fair race, number one? And number two, if it was, who won and how fast did they go?
Okay.
So that's exciting. I think that's probably the most exciting thing about this year, along with the fact that I think we'll see quicker and faster quarter-mile passes than we've ever seen before because the GTR platform and other car platforms have evolved so much in the last 12 months.
Yeah, definitely. And so you're bringing more, I guess, structure to the roll racing event. It's actually easier to follow. It's easier for the drivers to figure out, if it's a good race and if it, all the stuff is, I guess the logistics of it are all figured out better, huh?
Yeah, and it's a learning experience. We're not perfect. And every year we learn how to make it better and better. It goes back to sort of really at the core of what the event is, the mantra or the way that I look at it, and that is, this is a grassroots event. I want to know every single one of my sponsors on a first-name basis, and I want them to have my personal number. I want them to be able to call me, to talk to trust me, to trust that I'm honest and going to do the right thing. And then I also want the drivers and the racers to have that same sort of experience. Oftentimes I get texts, emails, Facebook messages, Instagram DMs, people asking me questions. I give them my personal cell number. Hey, call me, we'll talk about it. So I really, no matter how big this event gets, I always want it to feel like it's grassroots, like it's personal, and like people can bring their family and it be a good time. And that's what I've really tried to do to distinguish myself over the last several years.
Very cool. And we actually interviewed a guy named Jimmy Day, I think about a month or two ago, and he runs the Hot Rod Power Tour and LS Fest. And one of the things he said was, if you have a problem with the event, tell him personally. And if you're having fun at the event, tell everybody. And so I think that's kind of the same mentality that it sounds like you're taking with your event. If you're having a problem with it, let you know, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's sort of a weakness as well as a strength of mine. I want to be involved in everything, and so I want to be able to fix everything. I want to be able to continue to do everything that's great, and I want to be involved in all the minutia. But the event has gotten so big that it's become harder and harder to do that. So the team that I have in place helping me now makes that a lot easier because I've got people on my team that look at it the same way I do. So it's made it a lot easier to do that as the event's grown.
Okay, so let's go into the event itself. Go ahead and tell us how it's going to happen this year. It's 4 days. It's Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, right? What is going on each day, and how can people be involved with it?
Yeah, so Thursday, March 17th is the first day of the event, and that is a day that's 100% dedicated to roll racing. So the premise is that two cars line up next to one another. They pace one another up to about 65 miles per hour. And then when the light turns green up in front of them, they race for 1,500 feet. And the cars that come to the event, they go from 60, 65 to 200, maybe even 210 in that 1,500-foot distance. And so throughout the day Thursday, we'll be doing test and tune. Drivers and cars will be getting acclimated to the new starting procedure, and then we'll have a qualifying in the afternoon. And obviously, spectators are welcome. It's a pretty cool opportunity to get really up close and personal with the cars and the drivers, because Thursday's probably the least busy day. And so it gives spectators, children, fathers, wives, husbands, grandfathers, whomever, the ability to really, really get face-to-face and a lot of attention time with the drivers of the cars, as well as the shops that build them. And we'll have booths that are set up. Our sponsors will be displaying product, and you'll have the opportunity to really get in front of the vendors that make this event happen, as well as make the cars run in the event. So that's Thursday. On Friday, we start in the morning with a little bit of test and tune roll racing, and early afternoon and up until about 3 o'clock, we go through roll race eliminations. And so the way it works is during qualifying, the fastest 16 speeds go into an unlimited ladder, NHRA-style ladder. The second fastest 16 speeds go into another NHRA ladder, and it's called the Super Sport ladder. And then the third fastest 16 speeds, those cars go into a third ladder called the Sport ladder. And we have eliminations and essentially crown a winner for each of those categories. And we have awesome trophies that are put together for the event. They're done by a company called Second Shift Art, and Brian Gosley's the man over there. And so we give these awesome trophies as well as cash payouts. And then the second we're done roll racing at 3 on Friday, we start dragging the track and preparing it for quarter mile. And at about 5 or 6 p.m., we open the track for test and tune, quarter mile, and we run it till 11 p.m., 11:30 p.m. And so anybody can just come and drag race like they typically do at Royal Purple Raceway on a Friday night. And at the same time that the drag racing is going on at the Wood Forest Bank Tower Club, we actually have what's called the night meet. And in that lounge, it's essentially a party where we have food and drinks, and we have a DJ playing music. It's social time. And then we also have a bikini contest that we've done for the last 10 or so years at the Tower Club and inside that Friday night. And we finish up probably close to midnight Friday night. And then the next 2 days, Saturday and Sunday, is 100% dedicated to drag racing. And we have test and tune. Anyone can come drag race and test and tune on Saturday and Sunday. And then we have some eliminations or some qualifying and eliminations brackets late Saturday, and then Sunday's all-day eliminations. And there's several classes cars can compete in. There's several Nissan GTR classes. And in the highest GTR class, it's more of an exhibition class for the shop builders. So any car make and model can run in that. We also have a Supra-specific class that we kind of keep every year just because the Supra is the reason the event started. And then we have a 10.5-second index class, which was really popular last year, a streetcar class, which was the most popular last year. That includes all makes and models. And then we also have a motorcycle class for the guys that want to come ride their bikes down the drag strip. So that kind of wraps up late Sunday, and that's essentially the event.
And it's changed a little bit over the years because now the roll racing is done through the drag, actually on the drag strip at Royal Purple Raceway this year. And you mentioned, was it like 2 years ago? It was at Texas World Speedway on the,
Correct,
I guess,
on
the
the
back straightaway.
Yeah. I mean, that was I couldn't get a runway, not one that was concrete, and concrete hooks a lot better than asphalt does for these street cars on street tires. And so the next best thing was a runway with asphalt, which we couldn't secure in time. And so we secured the back of Texas World Speedway, which is asphalt. But the nice thing about Texas World is that we were allowed to bring a truck and VHT the surface. So we kind of prepped it like a drag strip, and we quite frankly probably would have kept it there had I not, number one, partnered with Seth Angel at Royal Purple Raceway, and number two, hitting that banked turn at 210 miles per hour in a car with drag radials that don't have much of a sidewall is not. Probably not very fun.
Scary is what a lot of people told me.
Yeah, and so again, back to that point I made earlier, we listened to our racers and our sponsors, and they said probably not going to do it again here because it's scary as heck. So that was sort of the second reason that we decided to move it, and thank God we've got a Royal Purple Raceway because the total amount of distance we have to play with is 4,400 feet. And that's plenty to do a roll event and stop in time and be safe.
Okay, very cool. Okay, and so as an event, I guess you're treating it like a business. Where does all the revenue come from? Is most of it from the sponsors, or is the shirts and that kind of stuff, or the entry fees at the gate of the event?
Yeah, good question. So I'll answer it on behalf of TX2k Enterprises. There's several revenue sources. Number one, sponsor fees. That's the single biggest by far. The second is tech cards that are sold at Royal Purple. That's a revenue stream to the company. And then the third is entry fees for the roll race event. Those are the three primary sources of revenue for the company. And then yes, we do sell T-shirts, but you gotta keep in mind that for every T-shirt we sell, we give them away at no charge to the sponsors. It's sort of part of their sponsorship fee. So the T-shirt thing ends up being a break-even.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a wash, a break-even business.
Okay, cool. And so you got a lot of sponsors, and I'm kind of looking through the list here, and I know most of them on there, and most of these guys are obviously they build the cars that are competing in this event, and so that makes it a lot easier for you to find sponsors for the event. I guess people who are participating in it.
Yeah, but I think it's not really that. Most drivers have their cars built by one of the sponsors. They're not really shop owners. And most of my sponsors, like I mentioned earlier, have been loyal to me and been with me for a really long time. So really the sponsor thing is crazy. Some years we'll have a lot of interest, some years it's my same old faithful guys. But we always pick up probably 8 to 10 new sponsors, and we probably lose 5 to 6 old sponsors for various reasons. And if I look at my sponsor list from 10 years ago, a lot of those companies aren't in business anymore, or have moved on to a completely different platform or a different type of business. So, from a sponsor sourcing perspective, it's more the reputation of the event. I would like to think the ease of working with me, and also the fact that we pack Royal Purple Raceway with 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7,000 people. Well, those people are going to visit the sponsor booths, and it gives the sponsors an opportunity to sell and market their product. Not to mention, almost all of my sponsors, the months leading up to TX2k, almost can't take any new business until after the event because they're all busy building cars for the event. So I think the relationship works well for TX2k Enterprises and for the sponsors for that reason.
Okay. And you have kind of like sister events. So I know Induction Performance puts on Florida 2K. Is that in conjunction with you, or are they just kind of like they're sponsoring your event too? So let me kind of give you a quick history. I met Victor Alvarez, who's one of the owners of Induction Performance. Oh gosh, I want to say 10 years ago. And I met him he was a kid working for his dad's muffler shop. And so he loved Supras and said, man, I want to sponsor this event. I want to come. And through the years, the relationship with Victor, it's been interesting. He's matured into
a man and a business owner, and has moved on from the muffler shop and had a few business ventures that didn't work as well as Induction Performance, and now actually Induction is the primary sponsor of the event. He's been asking me to be the primary sponsor for years and years and years, and Dusty said, "Hey, I'll let Induction take it for 1 year, and MVP will step down and be a platinum sponsor." And so that's sort of the long version of my history with Victor and with Induction. But about 4 years ago, I started noticing that everyone and their mother started creating events that had a 2K on it. Michigan, MI2K, CA2K. They wanted to do a GA2K. They wanted to have anything and everything. TX2k Dino Night, TX2k this and that. And so I got wise. I went and created a limited liability corporation, formed the company, but I also engaged an attorney that helped me work to trademark the 2K association with car events. And that also gave me the opportunity to protect my business, because you're right. Everybody would say, "Hey, you're doing GA2K this year. I can't wait." And I'd be like, "I have no idea what you're talking about. That's not my event." So what I essentially did is my attorney came up with a trademark and usage agreement that FL2K essentially signs and honors every year, so they can continue to use the 2K name. CHI, Chai 2K was another one that signed and operated under that agreement. And so in a nutshell, they have access to me, my expertise in doing events. I act as a consultant for their event, and they have the ability to sort of use the name and do an event that's going to get some recognition just because of the 2K moniker.
Awesome. So the TX2K is actually then trademarked and owned by you, essentially.
Yep.
Very cool.
And it's actually more complicated than that, and I won't get into the details. But essentially, any state, major city, or anything car related 2K, we've got some protection there for anything 2K that's car or motorsports related.
So have you had any problems enforcing that, or do people most people, when they see a letter of from a lawyer, they stop immediately. I mean, it's pretty standard, but
yeah. And look, I'm not super litigious or anything like that, but for God's sakes, this is my 17th year doing this event. I've put blood, sweat, and tears into it, including thousands and thousands of my own personal dollars, until it became a solvent business. And so nothing irks me more than someone trying to win off of my name. And it's funny because now they just change the name and try to do events in Houston during my event so they could capitalize on all the people that TX2K brings to town. So it's kind of a touchy subject for me. But yeah, I've had to go beyond please don't use my name to market your business or to create your own event. I've had to go beyond that over the last couple of years, because people nowadays, the successful ones that do events, and I'll mention one specifically by name because they're great, is Jason Huang at a Shift Sector. They do an event in California. They do an event in Colorado. They created their own event. It's their own idea, and they're successful business people. Well, that's all I ask anyone to do, is just create your own event. Put in some blood, sweat, and tears, struggle through the hard times, win during the good times, but do it on your own. And so, unfortunately, I've had to take the legal route over the last several years on several occasions to get people to honor that position.
Awesome. This is really interesting, because I actually had no idea that it was actually a trademark name, because I remember seeing a bunch of events coming out with it, and to know that they were not I guess technically not doing it legitimately was pretty interesting.
And many of them, you probably noticed, announced an event and then it disappeared.
Interesting. Okay, so getting the word out about your event, I think now it kind of builds upon itself. Just, if anybody's even on Facebook at all with car stuff, for the next week, you're going to get bombarded with videos and people tagging stuff. And has the social media part made it a lot easier for you to get the name out, or is it just the popularity of the event has built itself?
I think both. Without getting into too much detail, because we'll be here forever, I think there's a balance and a combination of reputation, history, social media, and then other sort of marketing gimmicks. And gimmicks sounds like a nasty word, but it's really not meant that way. It's just marketing strategies and ways to draw racers and people to your event that distinguish it from other events and make it as good or better. So I think it's a combination of all those things, including, I think, good experiences by my sponsors, who then go and tell all their customers about the event. I think you kind of wrap all that up together, and that's sort of our strategy.
Okay, and then obviously a ton of your own blood, sweat, and tears of getting the word out there, huh?
Yep.
Okay, and then, I mean, are you measuring exposure from the event? I mean, you're obviously counting heads that are at the track, but I mean, there's a lot of people that are down to Houston for that event that may not even go to the track, right? I mean, there's a lot of, I know you don't condone it, but street racing is like the big part of it as well, right?
Yes, I mean, obviously that's not part of our event, and it has nothing to do with TX2k. So you really asked a couple questions. The first is, how are we measuring our success? Head count is really the easiest way to do it, and there's no magic to it. You just, how many people raced. I know what the wait lists look like for the roll race, and I know how many tech cards we sell, but I also know how many people walk through the gates. That's the biggest measure. Everything beyond that starts to become a lot more subjective, like what was the feel? What do your sponsors tell you? What are the racers telling you about how busy it feels? And then beyond that, what is your social media doing? Is your Instagram growing? Is your Facebook getting a lot of exposure, a lot of shares, a lot of likes? And so that's sort of how we measure it. There's the objective part and then the subjective part. The street racing, it's people are going to do what they're going to do, and we've actually changed the event to try to take people off the street and put them on a track. And that's exactly what the roll race is. People go street racing, they do one of two things. They either drag race, which we have at the track, or they roll race. Yeah. So, the most I can do is make sure it's clear it's not part of our official event. And then try to create an environment where they can mimic what they want to do on the street in a safe environment on a track where you don't have the same risk factors. I've got a family now, and so for me to go and condone street racing where something may happen and people may get hurt, I just can't be in a position like that. So that's why street racing is not really a part of our event.
And it's pretty obvious that you've actually trying to curb it because I guess several years ago you didn't even have a roll racing event. You did a road racing event, right?
Right. Yeah, and obviously road racing is very different. People typically don't road race on a street, but by golly, what they do is they roll race, and a lot of these now, high horsepower Lamborghinis, the twin turbo cars, that underground racing, Hefner, Dallas Performance, and many of the others now are putting out there, as well as the GTRs that are built by all the sponsors that support our event. Man, those cars, they roll out pretty hard from a 60 pop, and that's what these guys like to do. So if we can put them on a track and give them an opportunity to go 60 to 200 some mile an hour, and it's as safe as it's going to get, well, I'd much rather do that than have an event where everybody's just going out on the streets.
Okay. And what advice can you give the people that are attending the event, both as, I guess, racers and as, I guess, just spectators? What can they do to make sure they have the most fun at this event?
There are always a lot of social media exposure. There's always an opportunity to meet a lot of pretty amazing people. Last year we had several of the Street Outlaws guys come out. They're coming out again this year. So come to as much of the event as you can. Come to the night meet. That is so much fun. 2 days of racing are behind you. There's drag racing going on. There's music. There's a bar. There's a bikini contest. There's food. That's a lot of fun. And then watching some of these 2,000 horsepower cars leave from a dig is pretty impressive. And last year we had a GTR world record set, as well as several cars in the 190 mile an hour range in the quarter. So just come and watch and hang out and have fun, and bring your family. I think it's a good, honest, family fun oriented atmosphere where everyone's really, they're competitive, but they're really open and willing to talk to you and share ideas and help. And that's what the event's about.
Yeah, and most of the sponsors are competitors. And they have, they have booths or they have their cars on display, so you can go and talk to them in person as well, right? So it's an open pit essentially.
Yeah. So we'll be posting this week on our social media as well as on our website, tx2k.com. TX2k is the Instagram name, and TX2k is the Facebook name. We'll be posting maps that'll have a vendor display schematic laid out, and it'll show you where every single sponsor is parking their rigs to race, and where every single sponsor is going to set up a display booth to show you their latest products, talk to you about building their car or building cars, talk to you about sort of some of the things that they have to market and sell as well. So keep an eye out for that, and that's sort of another great part of the event is you can get that face-to-face, one-on-one with those guys.
Awesome. So let's shift gears a little bit and go back to yourself. What's something that you struggle with in business, and how do you work around it?
Well, there are really two things, and we've talked a little bit about both of them. I'm an MBA by background, so I don't really struggle at all with sort of the finance, accounting, business part, but I do struggle with the things that I can't control, namely weather. That thing is that weather. That word weather has probably taken years off of the end of my life because of the stress associated with weather. And then the second is just the dirty tactics that competitors employ or deploy, and the things that they try to do to steal your sponsors, to steal your racers, your spectators, and everything else. I think those are the two most difficult things that I deal with. And I think, it's part of the free market economy that we live in. Competition is good. It makes us better. But do it fair and do it the right way. But between that and the uncontrollable, those are the two biggest things. Okay.
And like, I guess, how do you work around that stuff? You ignore it, or are you, what are you doing to get around that stuff? Weather, obviously, you can't do anything about.
Weather, you can't do anything about. So I've actually become close email friends with two very well-known Houston meteorologists. One of them works for Channel 13, one Channel 2. And so we've become like email best friends for like the couple weeks leading up to TX2k. And I try to be very candid and open with the attendees and racers. And I post sort of the weather feedback and everything so everyone knows the information I'm working off of. So that's really the only thing you can do on weather. Mother Nature has a plan of her own, and she's going to do what she's going to do regardless of what you want her to do. The other part, you don't do anything about people playing dirty. All you can do is continue to operate in a manner that you'd be proud as if it was plastered on the front of the New York Times. You do things in an honest way with integrity. You do things with courtesy. You try to distinguish your event by being personal with your sponsors and your racers and your attendees, and you try to be sympathetic. Nothing else you can do, and getting involved in that rat race that exists when others start doing dirty things just won't get you anywhere. So we try to just shy away from it and try to operate on the core principles that made the company, and that Seth Angel, the owner of Royal Purple, has, that Paul Costas, who's sort of my main operations guy, has, and that my family that helps me, they all have. That's all you can do, and that's kind of how we do it.
Oh, Paul is the guy who races that tube frame Camaro deal thing, right? In
yeah.
NASA?
Yeah.
Okay. Small world.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, because we run NASA with him all the time. So
I met Paul many years ago because I knew his wife, Anna. She was a Supra owner and an avid enthusiast and attendee of our event. And next thing you know, I met Paul, and he offered to help, and we kind of hit it off. And, you want to talk about a on-the-ball, smart, selfless, honest human being, that's Paul Costas. And by the way, Seth, who's a partner of mine in this event, is the exact same way. I consider him a friend as well as a business associate and partner in this event. He's the same exact way.
Awesome. Yeah, and Paul's car is ridiculously fast on a road course.
Yes, it is. And he was the first to yell at me when I told him we're not going to do a road racing event.
It's okay. He smashes everybody at our NASA event. So.
Yep, that's the same Paul.
So do you have a 1-year goal for 2K or a 5-year goal?
I don't know that I have a 1-year and a 5-year goal, but ultimately what I'd like to do is to secure a headline sponsor. I don't know, like a Toyo Tires or Yokohama or a Redline Oil. I'm just throwing company names out there.
I know people at Optima Batteries.
or Factory or Nissan USA or Lamborghini. You pick it. I'd like to get a headline sponsor that has the ability to bring some logistics and help. Because right now, what's our accounting? Well, it's QuickBooks. How do I maintain sort of the operations? Well, it's with an Excel file. How do we make badges? Well, I make them in my office with my son and wife. So it'd be nice to get a big company with logistics and also maybe some sponsor support. And then maybe we take it to a multi events per year type setup, where maybe we do a fall event and a spring event, something like that. I think long term that would be kind of neat.
Very cool. Okay, we like to take action and do it for a living. Do you have any suggestions you can give to our listeners that they can improve their situation as far as maybe attending your event or getting the most out of it? Or even you obviously changed the way you ran your business over time. So give us some good action item.
Well, I don't know that I have a specific action item other than you've got to be flexible, you have to be reasonable, and you got to be willing to adapt. And I think TX2k was an early adapter to the way that we marketed and got people to race and attend our event. And so I would encourage anyone out there that's looking to start a business of their own, to do an event of their own, or to do something that has nothing to do with car racing, but any other kind of business, to believe in their dream, to be thoughtful about how they set up achieving their goals, and just to go after it. And people are going to try to knock them down and take them down as they try to do what they want to do, but don't listen to the negativity. Just stick with it. And as far as my event, just show up and have a good time. It's a family atmosphere, and some really awesome cars that come to the event. So come out, check it out, and just have fun.
Okay. And then the last section we got here is the quick answer question. So just, give us what's on top of your head and make it short. But
okay. Tell
us about a game-changing product you've seen in the last year.
I'd say it has to be something like GoPro and video combined with social media. Now Facebook has a live feed option. That's game-changing. It immediately gives you access to millions of people that otherwise you wouldn't have access to.
Okay. And what software are you using daily? And this could be like QuickBooks, it could be Excel, it could be something you're using for timing.
Yeah, it's everything you just said. It's QuickBooks, it's Excel, and as far as the event's concerned, it's the Royal Purple Raceway's timing equipment. It's nothing that sexy or fun or exciting, quite frankly.
And do you have a favorite app that you're using daily?
Probably call it more of a most time-consuming app, and that's Facebook. That's Instagram. My son got me a Fitbit for Christmas. I wear that thing every single day, and that's hilarious to kind of compare how you're doing against your friends. So those would probably be the top three.
Awesome. Okay, and do you have a favorite tool, shop tool?
Don't know if it's a tool as much as it is a device, and that's a lift. For 15 years, I've wanted a lift, and I finally got one at home last year. I love that thing.
Awesome.
Because we use it all the time for everything you can imagine.
So the ceiling in your garage is tall enough for it?
Oh yeah. When we moved into the house that we live in now 3 years ago, I made sure of that. Otherwise, we wouldn't have moved. I wouldn't have built this house.
Okay. And what are you driving right now?
Well, I've got a GTR. That is a modified car that was built by Schweitzer. I've got a Mercedes C63S AMG that I daily drive. Got a Toyota Supra with 10,000 original miles.
Is this the one you got from, I guess, the first event? Same car?
No. I've had 14 of them since. Oh. I got lucky. This is a car that I found sitting in a shop collector's garage up in the northeast part of the country that I bought. So that's and Autobahn Motorsports, Tommy Bond, who built my first Supra way back when, kind of cleaned this thing up, and it's got some bolt-ons. It makes 600-700 horsepower to the tire, so it's nothing crazy fast, but it's a perfect car, probably one of the cleanest I've ever seen, given it's 20-something years old. And then we've got a couple of Porsches as well at home, an SUV, and my wife's got a Cayman GTS that she has some fun with every once in a while too.
You got quite a collection. I think of all the people I've interviewed, you've got the most cars on tap.
Yeah, well, we like to have fun. I unfortunately don't have anything too sexy right now from an exotic standpoint, but Underground Racing's done 6 twin turbo Lambos for me. And I'm waiting for them to kind of get their Huracan program figured out to where we can reliably do 1,500 to the tires through that dual clutch transmission. I think that's the next game changer in our street car world.
Awesome. Okay, so what do you think the future of automotive performance is going to be?
Every time I turn around, I think to myself that we've sort of reached the pinnacle of the street car game. Cars that are mass produced, that are modified to make 2,000 horsepower. Well, when we started this thing, 600 horsepower was insane. And every year it seems to go up by about 100 horsepower. Now, you're competitive if you're 2,000 plus. So, I think just when I start to think that there's no way it'll get any better or faster or more power because there's no way they'll be able to hook it all. These companies that sponsor the event find ways to make more power and put it down more efficiently. And then I think another sort of big thing is this no prep racing stuff that Street Outlaws has sort of made popular. I mentioned earlier, everyone and their mother has an event during my weekend to try to win off the people that come here for TX2k. Well, it's actually probably a pretty good business model. I've often thought about doing a dig race or a no prep race. But I've gotten, not pushback, but I've gotten some concern from some of my main sponsors saying, that's really not what TX2k is about. It's a street car event, not a dig race car event. And so I've kind of shied away from it. But it's amazing how popular that form of racing and that style of racing has gotten.
Awesome. Okay, so how do we connect with you and your company?
Two ways. Instagram, you stay in touch with us. We're there daily. And also Facebook. We have an official Facebook page, and so please go check out TX2k, just TX2k, on Instagram and Facebook. And also, if you want to connect directly with me, anyone has the ability to email me directly at tx2kenterprises@yahoo.com. I'm pretty good about getting back with everyone same day, if not then within a day or two. So feel free to reach out via one of those three methods, or just come see me at TX2k. That works too.
Yep. And we'll be there this weekend. We're actually one of your sponsors. We're always the last one to sign up, I feel like, because we can never plan out our schedule far enough ahead. But
well, I'm very, very happy to have you guys, and look forward to working with you guys in the future. And I think this kind of interview, this kind of podcast, or this kind of forum is great because it allows people like me to do it from the comfort of my home, but also to spend some time with you guys. And I appreciate having you guys on board.
Yeah, and I guess we'll see you. I guess it'll be this weekend.
Yes, this weekend.
Awesome. Okay, and thank you very much for taking some time with us, Peter.
Thanks, Kevin. Thank you, guys.
Thanks for listening to Do It for a Living. You can find out more about this guest, this show, and even details about what we just talked about at our website, doitforaliving.net. Check out the Facebook page at facebook.com/doitforaliving and tell us who you want to hear from. And most importantly, subscribe to the podcast. Click subscribe. Do it now. Seriously. I'll wait while you grab your phone. Open up the podcast.